I've covered the Mark I and the Mark II Focus before, so now it's time for this. I suppose the Mark III Focus could be considered Ford's difficult third album, following on from the success of the previous generations. The Mark I Focus was the real setter of benchmarks. You can see my review of that on the channel. While the Mark II saw the Focus grow bigger and feel a little more solid. That's also on the channel. So what about this, the Mark III? Well, actually technically this is the facelift 3.5. First thing you'll notice is that I'm driving an estate. Yeah, there's a good reason for that. It's because for some reason on the Mark III, not really sure why, but the boot is much smaller on the standard hatchback, even compared to the Mark II. And I carry a lot of things about, do mountain biking, that sort of thing. So actually having a smaller boot wasn't very helpful. So I've gone for an estate. There's also something else about this car. Maybe I'll isolate some audio so you can really embrace it. Yeah, it's a diesel. Traditionally, I don't really like diesels. I don't particularly like the way they drive. I don't like the fact that a lot of modern diesels aren't very reliable, but I've been assured that this 2-litre diesel is actually quite good. The petrol option is the EcoBoost engines, mainly, apart from the 1.6, which is quite old and not very good and slow. But with the EcoBoost engines, they've not got the best reliability reputation. Their nickname is the EcoBoom engine. I think later ones are okay. I think it's more an issue with earlier ones. They've got a few issues, but one of the main ones seems to be one of the coolant pipes. Instead of being made out of like rubber, they made it out of the sort of plastic that you get on a crunch corner. So it sort of fails and then you get catastrophic engine failure. I just wanted a car that works. So this 2-litre unit, it's basically the Peugeot Citroën PSA Group engine, although they're now Stellantis. But anyway, it's roughly an old HDI engine, so it's pretty good. It's pretty reliable, and I've been happy with it, and I've done some decent mileage on it, and it's just about to tip over 100,000 now. I recently actually drove it from the UK to Munich in Germany, as you do, and it was quite happily sat on the Autobahn at 130 miles an hour. No bother. That's something my Mark I and Mark II wouldn't have done quite so happily. There's another diesel that's available on the Mark 3.5, and that's the 1.5 TDCi. It's basically a slightly less cylindered version of the old 1.6 TDCi. Not really sure why. I think they modified it to comply with the later Euro emissions regulations. I happen to own one of those as well. It's exactly the same spec as this, it's just that it's red. So what are the main differences? Well, the 1.5 feels a little bit more sprightly than the 2-litre in a sort of strange way at lower speeds. There's less turbo lag. The 1.5 also feels lighter, so it's slightly less nose heavy. So it's an interesting comparison between the two. The 1.5, if you're careful, you can legit get 60 miles per gallon out of it. The 2-litre, you're sitting more about 50, but if you both drive them in the same way, you're sat on a private driveway, definitely not the motorway, but if you were sat on a private driveway at 80 miles an hour, both cars would get about 50 miles per gallon. That's an interesting comparison. The tax on the 2-litre is 30 quid, the 1.5 is free. There's not a lot in it, to be honest. The only thing is, at higher speeds, the 2-litre undoubtedly is way quicker, and when you want to do that third gear overtake on a country road, the 1.5, you need to think ahead a little bit more at higher speeds, whereas the 2-litre you don't. Either way, the thing is with both cars is they will do a legit 600 miles a tank. And this is where I think it gets interesting with a sort of EV comparison thing. Before you go mad, or whichever side of the fence you might be on, I actually quite like EVs. I've driven a lot of EVs. I like them. But for me, at the moment anyway, I think things will change. The problem that EVs have is a car like a Focus diesel, it'll do 600 miles to a tank, it's ULEZ compliant, the road tax on the 1.5 is 3, on the 2-litre it's 30 quid. Where exactly is the motivation to go electric? I'm actually kind of all for it. I'm upset, the death of certain car, V8s and all that sort of thing. That's a sad thing that's inevitably coming. I'm not really that bothered about driving a diesel every day. I I'd swap this for an EV. I looked at the numbers comparing this to buying a second-hand EV at the time, and with the cost of electricity and the cost of diesel at the time, the numbers just couldn't add up. At the moment, the thing is, find me an EV for less than 10 grand that can do the mileage that I need to do and has all the toys that this has and drives as well as this does. At the moment, doesn't exist. I think it will eventually. I'm being optimistic. I think it will. I think it's a massive letdown that Ford haven't really sorted out like a decent EV. Like, all we've got in the UK is, well, a transit van and a Mach-E. And the Mach-E, it looks rubbish. Like, it looks like a sort of, I don't know, it looks like a shape that someone found and then stuck like Mustang-y looking bits to it. And it also looks like, I can't remember who someone mentioned this to me, and they said it looks like the Mustang Mach-E has a moustache. And once someone's told you that, you can't unsee it. I think it's really disappointing that Ford haven't got sort of a Focus-sized decent EV on the market, a Leaf rival, a Model 3 rival. I assume it's coming, but at the moment, no. So what spec did I go for? Well, this is actually a Titanium X, and the reason I went for one of those was it's quite hard for some reason on Focus Mark 3s and 3.5s to get cruise control. They only seem to be, unless it's a special edition or someone's optioned it, they're only on the titanium models, and cruise control is just so damned handy. I mean, even my old Clio 182 has cruise control. It seems a bit harsh that they didn't put cruise control on the lower models, but this has also got a fairly rare option on it, which is a button just down here, which is the heated steering wheel. And a heated steering wheel is one of those things, when you're younger, you sort of think, it's just nonsense, what's the point? But actually, on a winter's day, you get in the car, you go bang, you press that button, and you got quick clear-in screen. Bang, I've heated my arse, and bang, my hands are nice and warm. So it's good, I like it. Heated seats are only on the Titanium X, not the Titanium. Also being a bit stingy there, Ford. There's also a slightly odd, I don't know if it's optional extra or if it just comes on the Titanium X, but up here there is an artist palette button, and you press it and it changes the colour of the interior ambient lighting. So there's like a strip here in the door, and there's my feet, and I mean, it's sort of point. I'll have to switch to a night shot to show you. Very exciting. Oh, also, as it's the Titanium X, it's got Xeon lights. I know Xeon lights aren't that fancy. My Clio also has those from 2005. But it's those fancy Xeon lights that turn with the steering wheel. I mean, also not a massively modern invention, but they're good. They're good headlights. It's good to have nice headlights. I also have a couple of optional extras which are fitted to the red car but not the blue car. So it's got a button here which allows you to do lane keeping assist. It's not very good. In fact, I'd go as far to say it's the worst system of its kind that I've ever used. It allows you to go a couple of feet into the other lane before it actually notices anything's gone wrong. It's got a speed sign reading thing. Also fairly useless, especially on those bastard smart motorways, because the speed is up on the gantry, so it can't read those. It can only read stuff down here. That's kind of what all this gubbins is up here. So that's quite useless, really. In terms of good sort of tech stuff it's got on it, so it's got the city stop thing, so it'll auto brake at lower speeds if you're going to hit something. I have actually activated it once with a parking barrier that came down unexpectedly, and it worked, so kudos for that. Yeah, what else has it got? It's got this hill start system on it, which means that when you're at a red traffic light or something, or doing a hill start, it does that braking bit for you. One of those bits of tech that you don't even really notice, and then when you drive something that doesn't have it, you think, that's quite a good idea. Just trying to think what are the things that annoy me about the car. Well, as is Mark III 3.5 Focus, you'll probably know if you're familiar with these cars that the door seals, you always see them hanging off on these cars, and that's because in the Ford factory they use some sort of Pritt stick to stick the door seals on. I don't know why. Awful. Also, the rear Ford badge is from that era of Ford badges where they were crap. I don't know why. They sort of made them out of some sort of flaky crap. And it really bugs me. The other thing is the seats in this Titanium X model. They're electric, fine with electric seats, but they don't have a memory function, which is quite annoying because a lot of cars, when you have electric seats, it is useful to have a memory function. And if you're the front and rear movement, it's so slow. Like it's just that. It's, if I do it, it's just. Oh, it's so. And if you're sharing the car with someone who is, let's say, height impaired, and you're swapping drivers, it's very annoying having to sit there while it's. It does my head, especially if it's raining. Just stood in the rain while I'm just having to spend 45 seconds adjusting the seat backwards so that I can get into the car. Whose idea was that? Manufacturers don't, like the fronty back, like they should always have a lever that overrides everything. That thunk thunk. Just, yeah, rubbish. I don't like the electric seats. I think I've made that clear. What else in the interior? Well, this sync system, controversially, I actually really like it. Designed by Microsoft, but everything's logically laid out. It all makes sense. Maybe it looks a bit dated now for the era, but it's a pretty good system. Connect Bluetooth to it easily and listen to stuff like that.
Chapter 7. My second audition for the Mickey Mouse Club got me booked.
Don't judge me. You've also got I like the fact that you've got all the climate control buttons down here, so you don't have to do everything through the screen, which on some cars now really does my head in, having to do everything through a screen, go through different menus. I find it very distracting. And also, I had a 308 before that I was driving, and I found it really hard to control things because I had wet hands, because I can't remember. I think it was raining. What's a bit odd with the sync system is the voice control. It sort of works and gets you there, but it can take quite a while. Allow me to demonstrate. Let's go to Big Ben. Press the button.
Please say a command.
Navigation.
Navigation. Say a command.
Destination.
Destination. Say address, junction, or place of interest.
Place of interest.
How would you like to search? By name or by category?
By name.
And where would you like to search? Nearby or in a town?
In a town.
In United Kingdom, say the town name.
London.
Say the name of the place of interest.
Big Ben.
Please choose a line number.
Oh, Big Ben Fisheries, Big Ben Fisheries. 1, Big Ben.
Sorry, say line 1, for
Sorry.
example, or say none of those.
1.
Please choose a line number.
Oh, number 2, Parliament Square. 2, Parliament Square.
Sorry,
Shit.
say line 1, for example, or say none of those.
2.
When ready, use the voice button as destination.
Set as destination. Oh, I have to press the button again. Set as destination.
Setting new destination.
Oh, just thinking about it. Job done. We're going to Big Ben.
All right. Might as well put on some music. All these weird gadgets, you think they'd give you a radio?
Please say a command.
What the hell was that?
So with the spec that you get, I would say, if you can, get a Titanium X. If you can't quite afford a Titanium X, it's easy. You just sell your Porsche. I saw on a podcast once. You got to speak to your father-in-law, and then he says, just sell your Porsche. Sell your Porsche, and then you've got the money to buy a Focus Titanium X. It's a flawless plan. So the big thing with the Focus, obviously, you're going to want to know what's the chassis like compared to the Mark 1 and Mark 2. Well, it's not off to a great start because this is electric assisted steering, not hydraulic. So with hydraulic, you do get that sort of telepathic road feel. I really like it. But everyone has had to go electric. It's due to, I believe, efficiency, fuel efficiency. Everyone is now, even Porsche. And electric systems vary in how good they are. I will say, though, it is a very good system by electric standards. What it's done is it has dialed out a bit of the fun of the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 Focus. The Mark 3, it feels like it kind of wants to understeer a bit more, especially at lower speeds. I've been told by some engineers before on other projects that understeer is usually dialed in because it's easier for most novices to control and to understand rather than like snap oversteer or something like that. So I suppose it's trying to be a bit safer. The high speed stability, though, I would say is actually better than the Mark 1 and the Mark 2. It's still got that sort of Focus flow at high speeds when you're going cross country, so that's not left it. The traction control system on the Mark 3 is a lot better than it was on the Mark 2 as well. The Mark 2 kind of cut a lot of the power, whereas this traction control system is a lot less intrusive, but it still keeps everything in control. So I'd say it's probably a much safer car as well. The chassis dynamics on the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 Focus, a lot of that is down to a bloke called Richard Parry Jones, who worked at Ford at the time, also known as RPJ. Go Google him. He sadly passed away not that long ago, but he was a sort of amateur Welsh weekend rally driver, and that really showed in the cars, and that was why Ford had this era of sort of dynamic brilliance. I've seen now from the marketing material that what Ford does when they have a new car to develop is hand it to some very straight-talking engineers.
Ford Focus has been tested in some of the most extreme locations on the planet to ensure robust and proven reliability and dependability.
He just rags the shit out of the car on the Grossglockner in Austria.
Is the Großglockner High Alpine Road. It's 48 kilometers long, has 36 challenging bends, and most importantly, it climbs above 2,500 meters.
So, but anyway, well done, guys. You've done a good job. I've probably gone on about the Mark III enough now. So if you're still looking for a car that can do practical everyday things and have a bit of fun with at the weekends, then look no further, unless you really want to get a petrol. In which case, go buy a Mazda 3, because they're good as well. Apparently I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe and comment and turn on a bell or something. So yeah, go and do that, and maybe I'll set up a Patreon or something like that as well. Yeah, links below. Oh, Renault Wind. Don't see many of them about. What?